And welcome everybody to our April Cynosure HQIC Patient Family Partnership Hub meeting. Thank you all for joining us today. This is our Patient Family Partnership Hub vision. The Cynosure HQIC Patient Family Partnership Hub is a peer learning community for patient family partners collaborating with the 11 states that make up the Cynosure HQIC. PFPs, patient family partners, will use their lived experiences to co-create improved care for all people in partnership with the Cynosure HQIC hospitals. Our agreements we go through before each meeting. We practice active and empathetic listening and sharing. We want to be both teachers and learners. We want to make this an inclusive space for everybody, so we invite you to take space and also make space for others. With that, also using I statements, and we want to be here and present now. This is our agenda for today. We have Helen Plass here, who will be going over some ideas that she has for the Ready, Set, Go patient journey map, and then do a little brainstorm activity to brainstorm more ideas. And then we have the PFCC conference and patient community open house coming up in the beginning of May too. So we will talk about those, answer any questions you may have. But this is our welcome. And since we have so many awesome people joining us today, welcome to everybody. Please add into the chat your name, where you're calling in from, and what have you done for self-care recently. I could give an example. I'm Laura Jackson. I'm calling in from Eugene, Oregon. I'm the director of community for PFCC Partners. For self-care recently, you can't really see it, but I have sitting right here on my desk an off-brand version of what they call a happy light. And it's supposed to kind of mimic sunlight for you to help with when it's been a long, dark winter. So I think that's what I'm doing for my self-care. Helen is calling in from Michigan. Oh, she made iced tea. Yum. Chasing wildflowers. Oh, I'm sure they're in abundance right now with all the rain and yeah. 5-day beach trip. Taking walks in the woods, listening to the songbirds. We're starting to hear birds and it's very exciting. It's winter, or not winter, spring is coming. Spring is coming. Lindsay went to the gym 3 times this week, soaking in hot springs. Awesome. Keep them coming in the chat. Maybe we'll get some other ideas of what we can do for self-care. Marco is self-care, yes. All right, and at this point, I would like to introduce Helen Plass. She, like I said, is going to share some ideas that she has around the Ready, Set, Go patient journey map. So Helen, feel free to take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Helen Plass. If we haven't met before, I work with Cynosure Health. I've been there for a few years, since about 2020. Before then, I worked for the American Hospital Association doing on similar types of contracts as the Cynosure HQIC contract, working with CMS and other government funders. I'm also doing another interest of mine is in bioethics. I'm currently in school getting a doctorate in bioethics, and I'm really interested in social drivers of health, and I'm very interested in quality improvement and patient perspectives. And so I would love it if we could work on an idea that I had that I would love this group's collaboration on. I was really inspired by your Ready, Set, Go tool that was created. And I was wondering, well, I'll go over the goal and the idea here, but whether a patient journey map might be a great addition or another piece of that toolkit. And so my goal, I'm working on, oh, hold on a second, my computer is doing something funny. I can't see. Okay, so my goal is to partner with patients and caregivers, such as yourselves, to support care transition and reduce readmissions by addressing social drivers of health. So that's kind of my big lofty goal, and I would love it if you would come along with me on this. My idea, after reviewing the Ready, Set, Go tool and also sort of reading around the internet and listening in on some calls, I was wondering whether we might want to create a pocket log or an audit tool for the Ready, Set, Go tool to support the patient discharge journey and also maybe help the hospital assess its own processes, kind of a dual prong goal with that. And so we had an initial discussion on a previous call about this, and I got some great tidbits out of it. One thing that came out loud and clear was, think about patient journey mapping from an upstream perspective. So that upstream kind of just means earlier in the process, not just at the very end when you're on your way out the door. It's something that to think about it much earlier. And that's a great tidbit that came out of this group. And I know that you've been thinking like that for a while now. I also heard loud and clear to think beyond the hospital. And so, we don't exist in a hospital typically. Well, some of us do, but anyway, we have a home and we have a family, we have a life. And so thinking really beyond the hospital, really practically. I also heard loud and clear that we need to that if we did create a tool, we should focus on the patient goals with our tool rather than on the hospital goals with our tool, and make it useful for the patient. So something that a patient and the patient caregiver, the family member, whomever they are, really find it useful. And so that I think is a great North Star for this work. And I also heard that we need to move beyond the concept of patient compliance when we're thinking about reducing readmissions and supporting care transitions, and that there's a lot more in the situation than just sort of the ability to do what you're told. And so I think it's really sort of trying to change that perspective, moving beyond that. So we'll go to what I'm hoping to do today. So that's kind of a recap as to where we are. If you don't mind, Laura, going to the next slide. What I'm starting to think, I've been reading around the internet and I'm wondering, what might a patient journey map look like? And so I've been reading, and here's some great things and that at best a patient journey map would include. But I'm really interested in you. I'm really interested in what your perspectives are. And so I'm going to list out what kind of I've read from the literature and from listening to people, what a best patient journey map would include. I'm going to go through them all, and then I would like it if we could kind of break out and think about, what aspects of these things, what does that look like in its best format, and what else might it have? So for instance, if we look at the first one, we say, okay, a best practice patient journey map should include factors that empower the patient and improve their experience. So I hear that, but what would that mean to you specifically, or to what you've seen specifically from your experience? What would that mean? I love your insight on that for the first one. I'm just going to go through them all. You take notes of something that speaks to you, and we'll have some time to think about it, and then we can come back together as a group. So the second one is that at best it would provide patients with timely, meaningful access to their health information. So what does that mean to you? What does this look like at its best? When it was a meaningful access to your health information, or when it was really needed? What would it look like to have access to your health data without constraint? What would that look like to you at best? What would that need to include specifically? Another thing is that people say, shared decision-making and patient empowerment. What does that mean? What does it mean to have patient empowerment and shared decision-making around your care transition, or, leaving the hospital? And then quality to health information to be available on the internet. Has that been your experience? What does it look like when it's going well? And then also I want to know what else. What else would a patient journey map need to include that would really empower the patient, or empower you and be a useful tool for you and your care providers? So again, we're thinking about a journey map that supports care transitions and readmission rates, but not necessarily a discharge journey map, if you know what I mean. We're trying to move upstream. Okay, I've got some questions. This is good. Glenn.
Well, you kind of just answered it. So I was just thinking, when does this journey map happen? When do I get it? But you said it's before discharge. So
Right.
is it for inpatient, outpatient? Is it for all of the above?
Right. And so I would love your opinion. So if we think about that as a factor that empowers and improves your experience, if this journey map was to empower a patient and improve their experience, when would they need to get this journey map? When would it need to be introduced into their patient experience? That's a great, if you have insight on what that would need, I would love to hear that.
Well, just I'm thinking more at discharge, to be honest with you,
Yeah,
because I don't know what I don't know when I get there. I kind of
Mhm.
figuring out when I'm there. So then I need the tools for when I'm not there. And
right.
I think like that journey map is really better at discharge. I'm thinking because I'm not prepared on ready and set. I'm only prepared at go, I think.
Right. Okay. I hear you. Nadine, what, I see your hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't hear you. Daydreaming. Actually, I was thinking about what Glenn said. Hi, Glenn. I was thinking about what you don't know when you're in the hospital. I guess that's the thinking that, you're going to be taken care of. So I suppose we should be educated in the hospital too, not just at discharge. I'm just thinking that while Glenn was talking.
Right.
But what I wanted to say is, well, when you said map, of course, I'm very graphical and I love that aspect of patient knowledge and help. So I'm thinking you could actually use a map, like, I don't know what kind of map, freeway map or whatever. But the whole concept I want to get across, Helen, is if ... then what? If my incision is red, then what? What if it's swollen, or what if it's numb? Or I'm just going down the incision path.
Okay.
Real easy, decisive troubleshooting
Yep.
rather than letting it fester and, pardon the pun,
Absolutely. Okay, Barb.
I think of a journey map as, yes, it has value for me, but I want it to have value for others. And that means other providers, other healthcare systems, and other care agencies and family caregivers. So that they all have a shared place to look to get the true picture. Not just, the electronic health record data, diagnostic data, treatment data, medication data, but the story. So I'm also thinking that it could include a map of those people, places, agencies that are most important to me and have the most influence on me, especially my family caregivers.
Right. So something that's helpful, not just for you, but also for those on your care journey with you, that are.
Especially for I'm thinking about these days a lot about LTSS, long-term supports and services, and people in those agencies who often don't have accurate information, or the information is so medical that it's not of immediate value and usefulness.
Libby?
Sorry. I have to whisper a little bit because Marco's sleeping. Sorry. Maybe I'll step outside. So I guess I was kind of going back to the original thought of sort of having a companion piece to the Ready, Set, Go tool for the hospital. And so I guess I was kind of looking at it as metaphoric journey from your pre-admission through the bedside rounding, through all the way through discharge. And I love the idea of having that visible to others as well. And I just wanted to share a project I worked on a few years back with National Quality Forum to develop a patient passport. And we actually built it off some of the work done at UCLA, Glenn, around the pediatric presence at the ED and a project that they did. We took that and kind of created, like, what do I want to have people know about me to move through the health system? So I see this as even an evolution of that in terms of both of the function, what is the purpose? Is the purpose to give a communication tool in the patient's hand? To me, it's even more than that. It's a bit of being engaged in the Ready, Set, Go process that the hospital's doing. So how am I engaged? Was I involved in bedside rounding? Here's how I can be involved in bedside rounding, or whatever it is. So empowering and following the patient providing some level of information, but also just receiving that kind of, I guess, accountability seems like the wrong word, but some sort of accountability or alignment with the Ready, Set, Go process from the hospital perspective.
Yeah, you're really thinking upstream. This is great. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a habit of that.
Okay, but Bev, what's on your mind?
Are you finished, Libby?
Yes, I am. Sorry,
Oh,
Beverly.
just checking. Like Nadine, I get visual with this and I see the patient journey map, but I'm thinking more of like what we have at our church is called pathways to wellness. So I see it a path to wellness. And it may be completely different, but I also see it as a journal. So when you ask, what would that look like for me? It would look like before I get in the hospital, before I'm admitted, I get a journal that says, this is what pre-admission looks like, and all of the expectations and a place for notes. And then once I'm in, all of the names of all of the people that I will be meeting or communicating with, so that it is a communication journal and it's note taking, and of course the patient will have to take notes or the caregiver will have to take notes, but there's something that's documented that I can go back to and read and see and remember. And that makes sense to me. And that's probably because I am one who does take notes. But for me, a journal from the minute I know I'm going in to the time I am discharged, which means that this is what you're being discharged with. You will need help for so many hours. This is what's already at your house. So that communication from the beginning to the end, so that my pathway to wellness means that I don't have to come back and see you except when I need to see my doctor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And I really like the pathway to wellness. The language there is just great. I see a lot of chat going on too. Anybody want to share?
We can also go into we had a little bit of a brainstorming activity, but you all are just kicking it off greatly. But we can kind of go into that activity so that we can think of some more great ideas. So I'm going to skip past this one. So we have this little activity here for you all to brainstorm some ideas. I will go back to the slide with the discussion. So during the 5 minutes, you can have that up and take a look at it. But we will ask that I'll put on some music. That's why my Spotify popped up earlier. We'll give you all about 5 minutes to kind of sit and write down as many ideas as you have. I know you all have some great ideas. And then after that 5 minutes, we will come together and we'll keep brainstorming and sharing those great ideas. So let me pull up some music here. So
Sorry, Laura, just to be clear, these are ideas specifically about which, is there a particular aspect or any of these questions?
it's kind of what we have already started brainstorming
Okay.
on, the journey map. And so, yes, it's on that journey mapping for patients. So it is currently 12:53 here. We'll give you till about 58 past the hour. And feel free to go off camera if you would like, and jot down your ideas. Oh, that's not the right playlist. This one. There we go. All right, that one ended just in time. All right, everybody. Write down those last thoughts you've got. And feel free to come back on camera if you'd like, and raise your hand if you've got any additional ideas if you got from that thinking time. Beverly, go ahead.
I have been in hospital more times than I even want to talk about, not only for myself, but with children and spouses and parents. And to me, the perfect, and which there's nothing perfect in this world, I know, but the perfect journey would be to have either a notebook or journal. They give you a notebook with all kinds of pre-printed pages, but I would want one, and this would empower me and improve my experience if I knew exactly what to expect when I went in, which you normally get. But I would also want to know the team that would be involved. And that would include, are nurses changing shifts, and are they going to wake me up all night? That may not seem important on this side of it, but when you're trying to sleep and you're not feeling well, it is. You want to know even how long you're going to have to wait for transportation in between time. Because as a caregiver, you get very frustrated when people tell you, well, the transporters are very busy, so it'll be another 30 minutes, be another hour. And whether that's in the hospital going to a lab or whether it's to be transported home, transportation is a very important aspect of hospital care, as well as the anesthesiologist. And then throughout that time, I want a conversation about my history, my healthcare history, and my experiences to ensure that what you have and what you know is accurate. And that includes getting information from other hospital systems or other physicians. And then the other piece to me is the real conversation about my voice for the unplanned events, the unplanned incidents, like my power of attorney, my DNR. If something happens in the hospital, who do I call and say something has happened, or I'm not happy with what's going on, I'm not feeling as though I'm getting my care? Who can I call and not get a voicemail in this hospital? What does that look like? And then the last piece is that pathways to wellness going home. Tell me exactly what it is I need to know about my prescriptions and about my transportation, about going to see other folks, about when I will get the final test results, everything that I need to know so that when I go home, I have numbers I can call and say, I forgot to ask about this test result. What does it mean? Give me everything I need to know so that you don't necessarily have to see me come back to you, or that I'm not feeling well, or I overdosed on something and have to come back. To me, that is what a perfect hospital stay would look like.
I like that, Beverly, with having like an all-inclusive, all-encompassing packet, and I like that, having space for notes too, and thinking of the caregiver as well. It's something you can give a caregiver while you're there in the hospital. So I like that. Bev?
Hits a lot of these boxes too. It's, meaningful access to health information, like you're describing about what you need to know about your medications, or shared decision making and patient empowerment, all of that. You're kind of hitting a lot of the notes here in the perfect journey map. I love it. Thank you, Bev.
Mm-hmm.
Bev Kreider, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that once again, Beverly Rogers is a genius, because I love that Beverly. It's so practical and so real. I would want the printable handwritten version. My daughter would probably want it accessible on the portal, so she's not going to carry paper with her. So another thing that I think would be important to include that are, who are your existing providers? We had a discharge that was totally complicated and delayed and a nightmare because nobody said to me about my daughter, what, do you have an existing durable medical equipment provider that you have a relationship with? So they were setting up this whole thing with somebody new. It was terrible. It was a big mess. So like what's the picture of, what's the snapshot of what life looks like right now for you? And then I think, you know, in terms of shared decision making, what is always so important is a list of options. So what are my options here? And a place to look at those and jot them down, because we know we're not going to remember everything just hearing it one time. But Beverly, it's a wonderful suggestion and I love it a lot.
Thanks, Bev. Yeah, just adding more great factors to the idea. I think those are all great things. Information on patient providers, list of options, having it on the portal. I think you'd have a lot of accessibility increase if it was on the portal as well. Nadine, what are you thinking?
Well, I just want to comment on that incredible the last two comments. And you know, I'm a big note taker to a fault, but I'm not a journaler. I'm just not. I don't know why. But that would be a great way to mention anomalies. You know, of course, the patient might not realize it's an anomaly. They might think it's just, you know, normal reaction, but I don't know. Anomalies always interest me, but that's not what I wanted to say. Two things. You've got to, this is on discharge, of course. You've got to address mental issues as well as the physical issues. At least touch on it. Say it's not uncommon for you to feel sad or anxious when you're normally very good natured. Well, you wouldn't phrase it that way. You just have to put it in the mix because it can really screw up your healthcare plan, you know? And secondly, pain management. I'm telling you, I just think there are benchmarks in healing. Say you have a cast or something and you get it removed. If you don't have that one spare Norco, you're going to be so miserable. You're not even going to look forward to going through PT or OT. At those benchmarks, there should be some way of saying, if you can possibly wean yourself off and don't want the hassle of going back, but for more pills, and admitting to the patient that there are going to be these benchmarks where you're going to be miserable for a day or so. So you might want to hang on to a couple Norcos, getting stitches removed, so you're not always in that frame of mind where, oh God, I thought I was healing. Now I had a setback.
Yeah. Thanks, Nadine. More great additions. Yeah. Mental and emotional factors need to be addressed. And then also pain management. Those are very perfect, specific and good. Really, really drive into the, expanding our mind to include the social drivers of health. So I really like that. Okay, Barbara, what's on your mind?
I think in bullets and indented bullets. So very similar to what Bev was saying. I divided it up into 3 categories: what I'm coming in with, my hospital experience, and what I'm going home with, or my after hospital experience if I'm not going home. Mm-hmm. And what I'm coming in with includes my social drivers of health, my care network, my legal documents like my healthcare proxy, my DNR status, my living will, my medications that I need to take while I'm in the hospital. And very importantly, what my concerns and questions are and what my goals are for the hospitalization, which may be very different than what the surgeon's goals are. And then also, very importantly, how to set up my home, so that when I go back home, there's no wires or rugs that I'm going to trip over. And my hospital experience, check-in, places I'll be in the hospital and for how long, who will be taking care of me, room and food, caregiver presence. Will my caregiver be able to be with me 24 hours? Can they stay over? And then the whole discharge process, especially if you're not being discharged to home. And then my after hospital experience includes a lot of what Bev was saying: transportation, the meds to get, Nadine, including pain medication, durable, Bev, to your point, durable medical equipment, arranging PT and OT at home, and other home care resources. And very importantly, setting up that next appointment with the surgeon or the doctor or my primary care doctor. And also, what are the signs that something has gone wrong? And who do I call if that happens? And I think that somebody made a comment in the chat that this needs to be a living document. I very, very much agree with that, because things will change and more issues or more questions will come up, as you go through the experience, and especially after the experience. No matter what they tell you, and no matter how many times they say it, you're going to get home and you're going to say, am I supposed to take this 3 hours before eating or after eating? So a way to make this living and responsive.
Oh, thanks, Barb. I love that, and so clear too. And I believe you've even moved us further upstream by thinking about what people are coming in with and thinking, before you even are a patient. And so I really like the way that you've broken that down, and that makes a lot of sense. Okay, we're going to go to Bev, and then I want to hear from some folks who we haven't heard from yet. So I'd love to hear from you, Beverly, and then we're going to keep talking.
You're muted, Beverly.
I just want to add one thing that we always forget and always ends up to be a spoiler. Whatever the issue is with the insurance, let's get it on the table before we get to the end. If something happens and I have to stay longer, I don't want you discussing over my bed that your bed has been given away because your insurance won't pay for you to stay another night. Whatever the insurance is, it needs to be clear so that we don't have that discussion of how much it will pay, what it won't pay for. You can't have this, you can't see this specialist, whatever that is. We need to make sure that insurance is not an issue while I am in the hospital or when I'm recovering. And I took my sign down because I want you to see my face. I am serious. This whole insurance thing has got to stop.
Oh, 100%. That's something we need to be clear and open about as early as possible, and everyone is on the same page. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, the information, just need to get it and speak about it. Okay, who else?
Mary put in the chat. Mary, do you mind going off mute and expanding a little bit about your comment in chat?
Yeah, sure. This is Mary. I work on a team at Sutter Health, and they've done a lot of work with what they call patient-reported outcomes, and it starts before a procedure, and they ask some standardized questions, and it does address the mental and the physical aspects, and it's a way put in plain language for people, like this is how I'm doing now, and this is how I'm doing, during and after, and it also helps people understand how they're doing relative to other people that have had the same sort of procedure. So I think it gives people an opportunity to, talk about, how they're getting back into life. And when you're asking them questions before the procedure, it opens up the opportunity to do the preparation around what are the social determinants of health. That's probably anywhere from 40 to 80% of what's going to, help you get better. And, everything that everybody's been talking about, in terms of paying for it. There's nothing like the shock of, I have to leave, or I can't have this done, or I can't afford it. That just blows you out of the water. I couldn't agree with you more, Beverly. And But anyway, these sorts of programs are an opportunity to give healthcare systems a framework for us to sort of pin the tail on the donkey, all the way through. They get measured on it from a quality and safety and outcome point of view. So again, if you're trying to talk to a system and you have a framework like this and you want to add to it, it's just an opportunity to not start from scratch.
Many great points, Mary. Thank you for speaking. I think Tara's next.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a director of case management. So everything that y'all are talking about is great when you can look at things as being planned, but more of our admissions than not are not planned. It is nothing that anybody had it as their day. This was the thing they had planned for the day. And we have to remember that this is a whole total life change for anyone, whether they're in the hospital having surgery, this was an accident, a new illness, whatever it may be. The education has to be told probably about 10 times before they actually hear it. And so having this pathway or this map journey per se is a very good to be a living, breathing thing where it's added to, taking away medications, the education on the medications. And like someone else has said, somebody that they can call to get an answer from. That is the biggest thing, because it may not be home health. It may be the case manager at the hospital. It may be their nurse. It may not be, but whoever it can be that they can get that information from. We all have portals that patients should be logging into. Most of them don't know how to. So if we take the time to log into that portal with them while they're there, write that information down in their journey map, then they have their access to it, their password, everything they need written right there. And show them how to access within that portal. Just telling them, oh, we've got a portal, you can go get all your labs and your everything, that means nothing. And then you have to remember, we all have to look at how are they going to get their medications when they get out of the hospital. We are trying to implement the meds at the bed, where when they get discharged, their discharge medications are picked up before the patient is actually picked up. So the family member or one of our people will go and get the medications, bring it to the hospital so that we can show them. This may be the same pill that you've been taking, but it's a different color. It's okay. It's a different manufacturer, whatever the education needs to be. Insurance is not one of those things that a lot of times we know, it's like she was saying, we need to get that out at the forefront. We don't always know right at the forefront like we would like to know. So those are some things, that we can, call the insurance company and say, do y'all have someone that provides meals? Because a lot of the insurance companies do. But to have that information written in their book as well, whether it be Meals on Wheels or, what have you, because their medication and their diet are going to be huge reasons why they come back to the hospital, because they don't have access to one, the other, or both. All right.
Oh, very practical advice, Tara. Thank you. That's from your position, that's very helpful and practical. I love it. Glenn, what's on your mind?
Whatever Tara said was right on. But one thing to help, I think, answer some of these questions in this slide right here, and what Tara said is like what I feel all the time. She says you got to educate somebody 10 times. It's just so one thing to help empower the patient and also help with decision-making and all these other things is to identify a champion. So if you can have the patient identify a family member that can also share in understanding all these instructions and this roadmap, then you're going to get better compliance and better understanding. Because oftentimes the patient is beside themselves and they're not going to be able to understand what you're telling them. So if you can incorporate a family member or a loved one into all of this, it'll help with the journey map and discharge instructions and insurance issues and everything, but they have to identify who that person's going to be. You know, we want to identify like somebody that they can call when there's a problem at the caregiver, but there's also the caregiver at home. They need to identify that caregiver at home.
Absolutely. And Mary, thanks for providing the government, the tool ready.gov. We'll definitely dive into that and have a read as well. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and Nadine's echoing the thanks for Tara for talking about the meds and diets and how they impact health outcomes and hydration as well. And what Glenn's saying too is that having that support, who is that person that is supporting you on your care journey? And you can think of, those communication tools like checkbacks and things like that to be able to say, have they heard me? Do they know what I'm saying? Because you've said it once, twice, 10 times, and it doesn't stick. It's new information and it's just not something that's on their radar or in their vocabulary. And so it's just it doesn't stick the way that we think it does. Nadine, what are you thinking?
I will be so quick, I swear. Well, it could have been over with instead of just saying it. Not only do you have to keep repeating it so it sticks, people remember it wrong. They've done studies on this. They either forget the majority of what's said or they remember it wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so written down, verbalized back to the person who's giving you the information, just how many ways can we make sure that the accurate information has been received? Barbara, what's on your mind?
I found myself asking like a really basic question, like whose journey map is this really? And whose journey is it? Because the patient usually doesn't stand alone. And it may be just as important to have a journey map for the caregiver. The family caregiver I'm talking about, not a professional caregiver, because if the caregiver sinks, the patient's going to sink lower. So the caregiver's journey map may overlap a lot with the patient's, but they may need certain different things. They may need some education about how to change a bandage or to do wound care or that. Or they just may need to know what organizations exist for them if it looks like it's a long-term support issue. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you're on target, and it really aligns with what we were saying, or I forget who was saying earlier about the if-then statements, to say, if you see this, then do this. If you have this, then do this. Those for the family caregiver, would just be a lifeline. You could think about it. And then Mary's adding, obviously community connections, yeah, that's a great connecting to community groups to support the SUH needs. Absolutely. Linda, I don't believe we've heard from you yet. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm at a conference in out of town conference, and I came in a little bit late on the conversation, but this has been wonderful stuff. And two things that have been floating through my mind throughout all this conversation, because it's a topic of conversation and some of the work that I do too, is that we tend to forget the access to care and how much more proactive we need to be for those who live in our rural communities, who are traveling 2-3 hours into the hospital, who maybe their nearest pharmacy is 30 minutes away. And as much proactive planning and gathering of what they're going to need at home and having it at the ready. My family, I have a family member who lives about that far away from a pharmacy, and they weren't told beforehand, you know, you need to have these 3 over-the-counter items. It will greatly help once you get home. They weren't told that ever through the process of a planned surgery. And then he had to leave my sister, his wife, to go and get those items once they were told after they got home. So just remembering that, you know, just as much for anybody who lives 2 minutes from a pharmacy, the even more proactive needs for those who are in our rural communities. And then the other thing that I have started doing is asking permission. Would you just give these instructions on the phone? Would you mind if I tape this on our phone? If the caregiver does not want to put it on a quick video, then as soon as they're gone, I video and say what I thought I understood were the instructions. And so anyway, that's just another way to create a different modality to remember all of what's going on.
I love that, Linda. Thanks for sharing. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first point that you made about the rural communities, that is very important, especially, you know, with the HQIC work, I've been exposed to the needs in rural communities. But then, you know, also thinking that there are, you know, rural and critical access hospitals are being closed a lot of the time. And so people are even further from where they were before. And as you're saying, it also kind of applies to when the folks that are the 2 minutes, as you're saying, from a hospital, and that if they have low mobility and their caregiver champion also has low mobility, you know, it seems very far. And so as much as you can prepare somebody so that when they go home and they're in those initial stages of healing, you know, what do they need and how do you prepare them before, you know, so that as they're on their way home, they either have what they already need or know exactly what to get on the way. And then I love the idea about sort of really modernizing what a portal interaction would look like with your care provider. And that if you could upload a video of you saying exactly what you need, and then your care provider could, you know, respond and say, oh, don't forget this, or something like that, like a really modern way of engaging with your hospitals and care providers on a portal. That just sounds, I mean, we can do it in so many other platforms. We can do it in the hospital as well. I mean, they're modern facilities. It makes sense. Great points. Anyone else? I know we're almost at the end of our time together. This has been such a great conversation.
Beverly Rogers just put in the chat, how do we get patients to understand they need a voice POA advocate for the extra pair of ears for understanding, as well as the person who can speak for them if or when they cannot speak for themselves? Absolutely. Great thoughts. Well, thank you, everybody, for this wonderful brainstorm. I think Helen has lots of ideas to go off now.
Yes, absolutely. No, thank you so much, everybody. This has been so fruitful. I mean, I have notes, but I feel like I'm just going to need to watch the video again or get the transcript so I don't miss anything, because there was just so much great advice offered. I really appreciate everybody's focused attention. This was very helpful.
Good. I'm so glad. All right. And if anybody has any additional thoughts, I know sometimes after I get off a meeting, I think of something, feel free to email me or Helen, and we'll get your ideas down.
And I just want to express that I hope to co-create something with this group. And so I'll be coming back to you again at the next stage so that we can kind of all move forward together. I really want this to be a shared creation.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Love that. Brainstorm. All right. We did want to remind everybody that our PFCC conference is coming up in just a few weeks, May 2nd at the Endowment Center in Los Angeles. If you're planning on joining us, registration is open. pfccpartners.com is where you can find all of the information for the conference. We are super excited to be in person this year for the first time since 2019, I think. So very exciting. And then if you are planning on attending the conference, or even if you're not and you're down in the LA area on May 1st, we are having our patient community open house. So this is, again, for any patient family partners who are attending the conference and or just in the area. May 1st, anyone is welcome. It's no registration and it's free. And you can drop in at any time between 2 to 4:30 at the Endowment Center. So the same place that the conference is where we'll be having our open house. We'll be learning how we can make things better for the next person who needs healthcare and just connecting with one another, learning more about the network, the PFA network, and each other. So we are very excited. Looks like Marco's doing a lot of work. Type it in the chat. Love it. All right. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. If you have any questions, I'll stay on for a few more moments. If not, we will see you all either May 2nd or in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so
Thanks,
long.
everybody.